Hello, today we are going to take a Windows 10 operating system that's installed on a hardware machine. We have enabled virtualization support in the BIOS UEFI, and now we're going to make sure we've uninstalled all virtualization softwares on this machine. So there was VirtualBox installed on this machine. I've uninstalled it. And now I need to enable Hyper-V. So I've searched for Windows 10 how to enable Hyper-V. There's an article from learn.microsoft.com. It says that the simplest way is using PowerShell. We can do it from cmd.exe using dism.exe or from the Windows features. We need to check all of these three checkboxes to make sure they're checked, not tree state. Okay, so let's do it via PowerShell. So it says open PowerShell console as administrator. So let's click on the start menu, power, Windows PowerShell this thing, run as administrator. It asks for elevation. It says in here administrator, so we know this Windows PowerShell window is and process is elevated as administrator. Right click to paste. Unfortunately, it presses enter automatically, which is a problem, very important issue. Hopefully Microsoft fixes this issue. When I paste a command line on PowerShell, I don't want that command line to be automatically executed. Maybe I want to edit the command line and then press enter when I want. Okay, so it says restart needed false and online true. I don't know what this thing means. Maybe the exit status is probably success. So do we have Hyper-V enabled? If it requires a restart, do that. Let's see it. Where is it hidden in the start menu? Okay, where are you? So it's in Windows Administrative Tools, Hyper-V Manager, and Hyper-V Quick Create. Let's go with Hyper-V Manager. Okay, it says that the Hyper-V Manager is connected to my hardware machine, which is called Precisioni. And then I have two options. Either I'm using the Quick Create wizard to create a new virtual machine, or I'm going to create a virtual machine in a more advanced way where I have more settings available. So I'm going to go without Quick Create. So new virtual machine. I go next. It asks me where I want to put this thing. I don't have enough space on the partition C. So C is just 167 gigabytes, but then D is almost 1 terabyte. So let's go with D. Store in a different location. And I have a directory prepared in there, which is called VMs. Okay. The name, let's create a Kubuntu 22.10 virtual machine. So the name is going to be that. Kubuntu 22.10. Next. Gen 2 is I'm not sure exactly what hardware generation 1 has versus generation 2, but I'm going to try first generation 2. Okay, I go next. I don't know what this setting is. It says specify an amount from 32 megabyte through a really large amount. This is the amount of memory to allocate to this virtual machine, but this is the minimum, the startup memory, so it's going to increase the amount of memory allocated or decrease as needed within a minimum and a maximum amount. So I have very little RAM on this machine. I have just 12 gigabytes, so I'm going to go with 6. I don't know what 6 gigabytes is in megabytes, so I'm just going to put a 6 in here. Dynamic memory for this virtual machine. I don't know what this thing is, so I'm going to disable it. Next. It says, do I want networking? And I do want. Why not? It says the VMs Kubuntu 2210 virtual hard disk, Kubuntu 2210 VHDX. Correct. Dynamically expanding virtual hard disk. Correct. Size, let's make this thing 250. The other options don't make any sense. Use an existing virtual hard disk, attach a virtual hard disk later. Next. Install an operating system from a bootable image file. So let's go there. Does it have auto-completion? Yeah, it does. Okay, so from the downloads directory, I selected Kubuntu 2210 desktop amd64.iso, so the Kubuntu 22.10 installer DVD image. Next. Okay, next. Says generation 2, 6 gigabytes, default switch, correct hard disk, operating system. I go finish. Okay, and says that it failed to create because it failed to create a virtual hard disk. Okay, why not? Where are you, File Explorer? The VMs, virtual hard disks. I know maybe there's I created this virtual machine already, I deleted it, and maybe it left behind the hard disk image. So let's go close and let me try to delete everything. This thing, shift delete. Okay. So again, 250, next, next, finish. Okay. Let's see where it's at. It says state off. This is the Hyper-V manager, the management console for Hyper-V. And let's look at the settings of this virtual machine. So it says firmware, boot order, boots from the DVD, which is correct. Then it says enable secure boot, no thank you. Enable TPM, this is not Windows 11, so I don't need it. Enable shielding, no idea what this thing does. 6 GB of RAM, not dynamic, not a minimum and maximum, no memory buffer. Okay. Processors, I have one CPU with 4 cores and 8 threads, so hyper-threading. So let's give it 6 vCPUs. Okay. I don't know why it says SCSI. I don't want to use SCSI. I want to use NVMe. Not really. I don't have an NVMe on this machine, so just SCSI. Okay, SCSI. But this should be at least SATA 3 in speed because it's an SSD. So SCSI controller, virtual hard disk, DVD drive. The DVD drive is connected using SCSI. Okay. Network adapter. Default switch does not say what network interface card. I don't know what network interface card will it use. Probably not Vert.io. Name is okay. Operating system shutdown. I don't know. Checkpoints. I don't know what this thing is. Don't do anything interesting. It's a virtual machine. Smart paging. I don't know what this thing is. Doesn't sound too good. What do you want this virtual machine to do when the physical computer starts? Automatically start if it was running when the service stopped. Great setting. When the physical computer shuts down, we save the state of the virtual machine. We'll reserve disk space equal to the amount of RAM, so 6 gigabytes, when it is running, such that memory can be written to disk when the physical computer shuts down. Great. Okay, so all of the settings seem okay. I went through most of them. Let's start the virtual machine. Let's show the graphical user interface. So for that we need to press the connect button. Okay, it says try or install, looks good. Okay, so the BIOS logo, Hyper-V, and then the Kubuntu splash screen. Okay, I'm going to go install Kubuntu directly. English US sounds okay. Minimal installation, don't download anything, don't install third party. Guided use entire disk. Yes. So it's going to go with a, I don't know what partition table will it use. GPT probably, because it's UFI. And then a partition 1 on SDA, which is of type ESP UFI, and then a second partition. Sounds good. ext4. Great. Okay, let's go with New York. Continue. Your name. Simple password. Ubuntu 22.10. Looking good. Let's close some things. So installation finished. Now it tells us that we need to restart and remove the media, which is a DVD, the ISO file. So please remove the installation medium, then press enter, which is no CD-ROMs. Let's go to the settings. no cd ISO image. So we just press enter. It reboots. For a millisecond there's a red bar where it says that probably that secure boot is disabled. And now we're inside the virtual machine where we do our usual post-installation, where we install some packages, an SSH server, a remote desktop protocol RDP server. Then we connect to the virtual machine, and then we install some other packages, and then we start configuring kdesrc-build. Okay, so I think that we really need to do inside the virtual machine while we're using the virtual machine software, virtualization software, Hyper-V virtual machine connection in this case, is to install an SSH server. Okay, let's become super user and install the openssh server. Yes. Let's see if it tells us the IP address that's assigned to the virtual machine. Not really, so we'll have to get the IP address from inside the virtual machine. So it's this thing. Unfortunately, it has an IPv6 address. Copy paste does not work. Nope. 172.27.89.252. 172.27.89.252. Okay. So I don't need any of the downsides of the virtualization software. So copy paste does not work. Resize resolution does not work. Why would I want to continue using virtual machine connection? Let's not do that. Okay. First of all, let's connect using an SSH server, an SSH client. We're going to use the Cygwin terminal in this case. So SSH, username, IP address. It says, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes. Permanently added. Okay. What's my password? And now I have copy paste working from this terminal. Okay, let's become super user and install things. Apt install emacs no x mc. So this is for me surviving at the command line. Then what else? A VNC server, xVNC, what's the RDP server, xrdp, xorgxrdp. Okay, it is already installed. Crusader, a Orthodox file manager. What else do I need? Enough things, okay. Press yes. Okay, let's also make sure we're up to date. Update, and then upgrade, and then auto remove. Go. Git seems to be pre-installed, which is interesting. Okay. So it has a new Linux kernel probably. I only see Linux firmware. Okay, so it, but still there's two images, 21 and 26. Okay. Okay, so it installed enough packages for us to be able to connect via OpenSSH to this virtual machine. So in using the terminal, but also using RDP protocol. Okay, and let's do a reboot of the machine. When connecting using an RDP client, it's important that we are logged off. So there's no user connected interactively, there's no GUI desktop environment session. So all users should log off from their GUI sessions. Okay, so there should be just the desktop manager SDDM and nothing else. Okay, let's see how we connect to this virtual machine. Just a second. Okay, so we're going to connect using an RDP client. We could use either the official Windows Remote Desktop Connection application or another Microsoft application which is called RDC Man, Remote Desktop Connection Manager. I'm going to use this thing. So I go File, New, RDC, we give it a name. It saves this file by default in the documents directory. Okay, and we go add a server. That's the name for a remote desktop protocol connection. As server name, I'm going to give it this IP address. Hopefully it's still okay. Let's see. Yeah, seems to be okay. Next, credentials, username, this is administrator. Okay. Dot instead of domain. I don't change anything in here. Nothing in here. Nothing in here. Nothing in here. Nothing in here. In here you could make the drives that exist inside of the partitions that exist in the that exist locally, make them available remotely or vice versa or something like that. But it's important that the default contains the clipboard redirection between the remote machine and the RDP client. Okay, and this is the most important thing. Remote desktop settings, remote desktop size, same as client area. Add. I go view server tree visibility hide. I go tools options hide main menu until Alt is pressed. Okay, and this is about it. Double click on this machine, says I've never connected to this machine. Don't ask me again. Okay. And now we're connecting to the Kubuntu virtual machine that runs inside of Hyper-V, and we're connected from a from a Windows machine, which runs the RDP remote desktop protocol application remote desktop connection manager. So this is the client, and the server is this thing, the virtual machine. Okay, so let's do our things. First of all, we maximize the remote desktop connection manager window, double click on the title bar. Then we go session reconnect such that it changes the resolution. So we want the resolution of the Linux machine to be exactly this rectangle. So not this part and not the title bar, but of the remote desktop connection manager application, but the rest. Okay, then we do our usual things. So enter edit mode, move the KDE panel to the left hand side, do the settings, remove system settings, remove the App Store and Dolphin, the default file manager, from the icons only task manager. Then make sure console is favorited, and it is. Remove this cover from here, from the favorites. This list looks okay. We don't need Firefox, we have it already in the icons only task manager. And then let's have Crusader there. Okay, let's configure it. Okay. Okay. This is compact, apply. I change in here the font to be smaller. Smallest icon size. Okay. Tabs should be at the top. What else? No colors, no general. The viewer should be the internal viewer from the Orthodox File Manager Crusader, but then the editor should be Kate. Okay, nothing in here, 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 nothing in here. Let's make these smaller, but we're not going to use them. Okay. And now there's too much Chrome and too little space for content. So this F function buttons bar, we don't need it, so let's hide it. We don't need any toolbar. Okay, we don't need a status bar. Let's make the zoom level the default. Okay, looks okay. What's next? Let's open a Firefox and do the kdesrc-build procedure. Let's configure Firefox such that we don't have useless Chrome, more space for content. This is not needed. This is not needed. Never show the toolbars. Not the pocket, not the head buttons. Done. The minimum settings that I always do. Download, always ask. And new tabs. Always go with a blank. And looks okay. Open a new private window. Make it use the right halves of the screen. Okay, that's a problem. So I press the Windows key on my keyboard plus the right arrow key. And instead of moving the Mozilla Firefox window, it moved the RDP client. This is a problem. So let's configure this thing. Edit properties for this connection. Windows key combos, this thing. So Windows key combos should always be on the remote server, on the remote computer, so on Linux machine, never on the Windows machine. Okay, Windows right click, right arrow, and it still does not work. Let's reconnect. Save, yes. How do we reconnect? From here. Yeah, connect to that. Let's reconnect in order to resize. Windows right click, right arrow, so Windows key on the keyboard plus the right arrow key on the keyboard. Okay. This in Windows is called arrow snap, but we're inside of KD right now. KD Plasma desktop. Okay, so kd.org. Get involved. Development. Let's set up kdesrc-build. So it says that a better supported distribution is the latest version of Kubuntu, which I'm using, 22.10. Since I'm on Windows, I needed to create a virtual machine using a Linux distribution. Okay, this is a bug where in Firefox tooltips are not really readable. So tooltip over tabs and tooltips over links. Okay. So step one, let's run this command line because we're on Kubuntu. Let's open a terminal. This is a bug. The console started really small. So paste. Password. Okay, so CMake pulls in gcc, libgcc, libc, libgcc, gmake, libc, libc devtools, etc. binutils. Okay. We don't configure git. Step 2. We need to run this thing. Shift and copy and paste. Okay, before anything, let's make sure that we have enough vCPUs. So 6, correct? This part. So it requires we needed to run something as sudo, but since I already passed my password to sudo, then sudo it remembered my password and just applied it. Did not ask it again. So kdesrc-build --initial -setup will try to run sudo apt install and a large list of deb packages. Okay, so with this we've created a directory ~/kd, this thing. Inside we made a subdirectory src. In there we git cloned the git repository kdesrc-build, this thing. Then we changed it to it in here, cd. And then we ran kdesrc-build initial setup, which is this thing, which is a Perl file, which is executable. Permissions is executable. And then that has installed many packages from my Kubuntu 22.10 distribution. And it has edited it wants to edit ~/.bashrc. I say yes. And it has created a configuration file for kdesrc-build, which is this thing. So let's look at it. So default values, I don't like this. I always want to use debug. Okay, the number of vCPUs is 6. So let's use that. I'm going to keep the rest of the configuration, so I'm just using the defaults. I've changed just the num cores to be whatever nproc returns and what I really want to assign as vCPUs to my virtual machine, and then I always use the cmake build configuration debug. Okay, let's save this thing. What's next? It says that the path environment variable now contains this directory at the start of the path, the directory where we git cloned kdesrc-build git repository. It was prepended to the path environment variable. So now we can do the next step, which is this thing. Disable indexing for your development environment. Let's do that. System settings. I see this hot corner, which I do not like. So I don't want any action on screen edges. Then this I never want it to be 25%. 15% is more than enough in order to dock a window to a quarter of the screen, not to the half of the screen. Apply. And then what I always change is the mouse cursor size, make it a bit bigger, 36. Okay, and then we need to edit the search index. File search, it's disabled, which is great. Okay, step 4 and 5 are hidden in here. Step 4, I'm on Kubuntu, so I need to run this command line. Paste. Okay, so what this line does is it uncomments all of the lines that start with deb-src from /etc/up/sources.list. Let's look at this file now. Okay, so the deb line was already enabled. The deb-src line was commented previously. It had a comment sign. But sed, this sed command that we run, sed -i, so which means in place, and this file, and replace deb-src I know what this thing tries to do. I don't know how to interpret this sed thing. I would not have done it this way. Okay, but it works. That's important. And then after it has enabled all of the deb-src lines, many package repositories were added to opt. So now the next thing to do, let's not do anything. Discard. The next thing to do is opt update, which has downloaded the metadata, so the list of packages that are available in all of the sources repositories. So this, a ton. Okay, so now when we tell opt please install a source package, it will know what to do. When we will tell it opt build app, so to install all of the dependencies of a source package, we'll know what to do. Okay, in case of errors, we need to manually edit sources.list file, but we've looked at the sources.list file and it looks okay. Okay, step 4, this thing, step 5, this thing. So for KDE, Neon, Debian, Ubuntu, Kubuntu, I need to run this command line. So paste and go. $300 new deb packages will be downloaded and installed. About 1 megabyte each. So very many -dev packages which contain just include, so things that are going to be written in /usr/include, so .h files. That's why they are so small. Okay, then Perl modules, these are also small. So let's look at the actual list of packages. We don't have access to it. Okay. So many minus dev packages, many minus Perl packages. Which are small. Okay, all of the KDE frameworks, version 5. Okay, next. This is the 5th step out of 6, and we need to go back for the 6th step, which is kdesrc-build frameworks. Okay, and this last step, 6 of 6, is going to be successful, but it's going to take some time because this laptop is old, it doesn't have NVMe, DDR3 instead of DDR4, not 7 nanometer. Being a laptop, it's going to try not to get too hot, such that the fans start spinning too much. So there's a cap on the CPU speed. And then we're not, the hardware machine has installed Windows on it, not Linux, which is going to be slower. We're not using QEMU, we're using Hyper-V, which is going to be smaller. We're not using virt.io, which is going to be slower. We're using just 6 vCPUs out of 8 possible. Not enough RAM, just 12 gigabytes. So that's why the speed is so slow building KDE Git repositories. So this is it. Thank you.